Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink, it's one of the it's one of the Pelikan Edelstein series. Sorry, I've never been very good at pronouncing that particular syllable, I guess, in German. Edelstein. Maybe a little closer. I believe this is the ink of the year for this year, 2016. I may be wrong. Please let me know in the comments down below. It could be 2015, but I feel like this is the right one. So, this is their brand new ink, I think. And the thing is, these inks can be kind of expensive, so I haven't gotten to try that many, and those that I have I usually bought in cartridges, and I absolutely fell in love with Garnet. Like, that is probably one of my favorite inks. And I am so glad that I have a bottle and like 3 tins of cartridges. And that was an ink of the year a while ago. Maybe 2012 or 13. So I was sorry to see that go. And sadly, I haven't gotten to test that many until recently of this Edelstein series. But I was really excited to try this one because I really like the color. All the other ones I tried before had really impressed me. I love Garnet. Aventurine was such a bright color. Topaz, you know, it's a turquoise, but it's a pretty nice turquoise. It has good sheen. Yeah, I recently tried Tanzanite. Loved Tanzanite. Absolutely loved it. Oh, actually, so I only have one Pelikan, and it's an M200, and usually I like to try and test the inks in their own pens. However, I had Tanzanite in here, and I loved it so much I didn't want to rinse it out of the pen. But what's in here now is, let me find some paper. It's Edelstein Jade. Sorry, it's an italic nib, which is why I love this pen. But yeah, Jade, that was a lot of fun. I actually quite like Jade. So sadly, this is the only Edelstein ink that I haven't loved. I mean, even Onyx kind of surprised me, and I find most black inks kind of boring because, you know, that's the fun of fountain pens. You get all the colors. Yeah, anyways, we'll get into it. 2 pens are these. This is a Pilot Metropolitan, and it's got a Japanese medium nib. So it's kind of more like a Western fine. And then this JinHao X450, and I love my X450s because they tend to be pretty broad and pretty wet, and this one definitely is, usually. Now, there's something about this color that is both unique and yet very not. Of all the inks I've tested this week, I think I had about 21 roughly comparables that I then had to narrow down. Not all of them were spot on, but there were some that were peripherally kind of similar. But yeah, anyways, here's Aquamarine. Here's Noodler's Blue Nose Bear, which actually probably is the most comparable, but as you can tell, this has more different areas. This one is pretty solid, but gotta agree, like right through there, looks a lot like right through there. So yeah, there's that. And then, which might surprise some people, Parker Quink Blue Black. Because yes, there is no black in this blue black. It is green. But yeah, you see how like there's, you know, blue areas and green areas, blue areas and green areas. This bit, very much like that bit. Another blue black that doesn't really have any black in it. Waterman's Mysterious Blue, which is their blue black. Again, very similar, but again, here I feel like the blue and then the bright green are more separated. And then Diatramentus or Architect Jeans Blue. Very similar, darker, obviously, but quite similar. So yeah, what's the point of that? Well, there's a lot of stuff out there that is very similar, and some of it is very, very easy to find by major brands. So yeah, for less money. Am I being subtle? I'm not being subtle, am I? Yeah, you know, we'll get into it. So let's check out the chromatography, and I apologize because something weird happened with this chromatography. I think that was my fingerprint. I think that's why there's that little divot there. But yeah, you can see where the initial drop was put, because there's sort of this gray in there. It's almost got like hints of yellow in it. And then there's a halo of purple that like reversed and went down, and I have no idea why. But yeah, you get this purple, and then you get this bright blue, but it's like an aqua color, which makes sense because it's aquamarine. And then here's where I let it dry, which admittedly is not how you're supposed to do it, but it's something that I do, and I feel like it's taught me a lot about ink behavior over the years. This is what I think is interesting. You see this dot? Got much darker, but so did this purple halo around it, which I thought was very curious. And then there's sort of less gray going up, but yeah, largely the same. Now, I sort of wanted to see what this ink could stand up to, so now I didn't circle it, but I think you can tell where this water test was, and I think you can see that all that blue washed away, but the gray kind of wanted to remain in the heaviest areas. This 1/3 bleach solution turned it this very strange sort of pomelo color. Again, oh shoot, people probably don't know what that is. It's somewhere between a grapefruit and a lemon color. But yeah, ammonia pen flush strangely didn't get it to move as much as water. And yeah, don't know what to say about that. And then hydrogen peroxide just turned everything gray and didn't really move much, which was weird. But yes. Moving on. Paper test. Top down in density. Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Yeah, here I say that it's 5.5. It's not. The flow is actually probably 4.5. This might be the first Edelstein ink that I've tried that's dry. It's pretty dry. Now this X450 is naturally pretty wet, and this is a downstroke, which means that the tines are naturally spreading anyways. It did dry decently enough time-wise, but I don't know if this will come through, but I say it here, I feel like there could be more ink in this ink. I really like the color, but it seemed watery. I wanted more ink in this ink, is what I'm trying to say. That's something I was really disappointed in. Because this is a premium ink. It is, you know, a bit on the pricey side. And to not have a decent amount of ink in this ink is a disappointment, especially because I was kind of looking forward to this color. Now, it is an interesting color, and you can see many of these colors in this scrubby. And you do get nice shading. That is something that undersaturated inks do tend to have, you know, in spades. Is they can shade a lot. The breadth of shading is pretty broad. So if you're looking for something that's like a milder ink, you know, like it's a little withdrawn-ish, this might be your thing. But yeah, they do say it's an extra soft ink. So yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. And this is what kind of surprised me. I mean, we got hints of it in the chromatography, but still. There is this gray at the center that doesn't want to move. Now, the X450 laid down a lot of ink, which means that there's more gray. But this is very light. It looks like a soft pencil, or I should say a hard pencil, because soft pencils are darker. But yeah, so you wouldn't lose everything, but it would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Now, next up is Fabriano Echo Qua. I love this stuff, but yeah, there's not enough ink in this ink. Like, I'm gonna bring it in here. It's kind of watery. It's disappointing, actually. That Japanese medium took 10 seconds to dry. The generally broad and wet JinHao took 20, but I mean, there's not a lot of ink moving. I do like how there's like blues with greens and this nice color thing, but I wanted more ink in there. We do get a bit of a halo effect around the wettest parts. And I know it's not going to show up on camera, but there's like a reddish sheen around the wettest parts. Yeah, it's not going to show up on camera today because that's just my luck. And then around the wettest parts of the writing, we actually get a dark halo, which I personally like. I think that looks lovely. Oh, maybe we'll get sheen in this eye. Can you see that? Ish. Anyways, I tried. This is where I say, no, actually the flow is pretty dry. Now, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. There is sheen, but you have to lay it on really, really thick. Otherwise, it's very well behaved. And again, we have this like weird gray, just a hint of gray at the very center that doesn't want to wash away. But you got to lay it on really thick for there to be enough gray to really see it afterwards. Now, next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. And as I've said in the past, I actually prefer quadrilateral paper because I tend to want to write like this, and dots are sort of not enough of a guide for me to not do that. And I don't like when I can so clearly see the lines of the quadrilateral paper, even in the darkest areas. There needs to be more ink in this ink. But again, the dry times aren't too bad. I mean, you know, 10 seconds for the Japanese medium and 19 seconds for the generally broad and wet JinHao. You do get a very wide breadth of shading, different colors that can show up. You get a dark halo around the wettest parts. Here you kind of get hints of that sheen. It's not going to come up on camera because there is so little of it. But yeah, yeah, I see here, it seems subdued. There's something about this ink that just seems like hesitant. You know, like they didn't really commit to it. I don't know. I really hope I got a bad sample. But from what I've seen, you know, like on the internet and pictures and other people's writing, I'm afraid that I didn't. I really wish that I did. But yeah, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo. There's essentially no sheen. You gotta lay it on so thick, it's almost impossible to get. Again, we have this weird gray at the center, but it's like just the littlest bit, and you gotta lay it on real thick, so that's weird. Now, next up is Tomoe River paper, which is known for drawing out shading and sheen and dry times and echo. And here, please tell me we're gonna get it. There we go. Come on. There we go in the scrubby. The red sheen in the little halos. Now, we get that in some areas of the writing as well, but it's like a razor thin outline. And because of the way this paper tends to work and makes the ink pool, if anything, it really, really drives home that feeling of this ink being undersaturated, which is a shame, because I really would have loved this ink. But yeah, that Japanese medium took 16 seconds to dry. The generally broad and wet JinHao took 27. Yeah, not great. Where I had the sheer amount of ink that I had to lay on to get this sheen in this scrubby, you can practically see it through the back. Now, this is very thin paper, but still, that's, you know, it's going to be hard to get that sheen naturally, just because there's not enough ink in that ink to make it sheen. Because as you guys have probably figured out, the more saturated an ink is, the more it will sheen. Undersaturated, no sheen. But yeah, that's a bummer. But this paper tends to love to let ink slide away when you add water, and it kind of did. In fact, the camera's darkening up this gray just a little bit. The A and the bottom of the T and the E, you can kind of read. The rest would be, like, you'd struggle with it. This would not be the easiest thing in the world to recover. Now, for the next 3 tests, I just used the Japanese medium, except to write the name. And this is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. This stuff is just god-awful. It's terrible. And we get a pretty significant amount of spread. If we look at the line width here versus here, it's gotten much broader. And it's not, well, it's not quite there, but yeah. That's the X450 that I was comparing it to. Now, here, I guess we do still retain some shading, but really not a lot. It took 1.5 seconds to dry. Yeah, there's like a woolliness to the texture, but that's something that happens with this paper. We do get some feathers-ish. I mean, not a ton. Could be a lot worse. Yeah, no bleed, really, at all. Except maybe like in a few tiny, tiny dots up here with the X450. You do get like hints of stuff, but honestly it could be a lot worse. I don't know if I'd want to push it much more than a Japanese fine, but still. Now more absorbent papers tend to draw the ink in, make it harder to wash out. And that's kind of what happened here. As you can see, that gray at the center is actually pretty clear, pretty dark, but that aqua color is washing off. But worst case scenario, if you had to recover that, I think you could. Now next up is Mead Notebook Paper. This is the kind of stuff you'd find in like a 5-star spiral notebook. Lately this stuff has been feathering like crazy. And it did kind of feather, but not nearly as much as it has been. I mean, it does feather. You are going to notice it. Camera. 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 What are you doing? Ugh. I'm losing all patience with this camera. I hate it. Anyways, took 2 seconds to dry. You do still have shading. There we go. You do get like a woolliness and a bit of a featheriness, but it could be a lot worse. The spread isn't nearly as bad. Like if we look at the line width between here and the copier paper, it's not nearly as intense. Yeah, it could be worse, and this paper can really freak out when you add water, but here, again, could be worse. That gray at the center, pretty clear, pretty there, pretty readable. The aqua is washing off, and there is utterly no bleed through. None. And there's not even much echo or show through, even with that X450, and bear in mind, this stuff is even thinner than 20-pound copier paper. Now, lastly is Moleskin, which I hate because it is awful, and they make you pay a lot of money for something really awful. Now, I hope you can see this. This texture and this feathering, it's nasty looking. It looks bad. It looks bad. It took 4 seconds to dry. Ugh, it looks bad. And yet, still, it kind of looks undersaturated a bit. And, I mean, it's just nasty looking. And here's something else I forgot to say. These 3 papers, they're the 3 more absorbent papers, I had to keep priming the feed because it was already a dry writing ink, and then these are more absorbent papers, so it's trying to like pull the ink out of the nib and the feed can't keep up. And that was something that drove me crazy all through those tests. But yeah, here we still get little dots of bleed or very near bleed and show through, so if you're sensitive to that, that's not going to be great. And bear in mind, this is a dry writing ink, and it's a Japanese medium. And here, the paper freaks out when it never freaked out before. Not really. I mean, even the stuff at the center is like breaking up and getting woolly, and that would not be fun to try and recover. I hate Moleskin. But yeah, anyway, so there you go. There's Pelikan's Edelstein Aquamarine. I was really looking forward to it. I kind of like this color. In fact, I really enjoyed Parker Quink Blue Black. I was disappointed. It's dry writing, and my camera just died, but I'm going to try and finish this anyway. That's embarrassing. It's dry writing. It's undersaturated. It's subdued is the only way I can think to put it. It's like it got tired or something, like, or it's like an old man that got tired of trying. I had high hopes. Now I'm just disappointed. Could be worse. Even has a little bit of surprising water resistance with that gray, but you gotta lay it on thick. But anyways, yeah, sadly, my least favorite Edelstein ink so far. But yeah, for your consideration from the Triple N Network, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.